Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Java and how to avoid null pointer exceptions. It's actually how to use JSpecify. JSpecify is something that is supported in IntelliJ. So if you go look at what's new in IntelliJ, so that is how I actually was inspired to do this video right here. So if you go to help, and then you can always say what is new in IntelliJ. So if you're bored one day, if it's raining outside, you don't know what to do, press help and then go to what is new in IntelliJ. And then there's a long list right here. Java 25 is supported, which is of course quite important because it will be here quite soon. So, and if you haven't seen my Java 25 video, then of course watch that. But of course you have seen that of course already. But let us just go back to all updates right here. So I'll just press help again, and then we'll say what's new in IntelliJ. And here we have there's something named JSpecify right here. That is what triggered me. So Maven 4 is also supported, and then JSpecify. And we will talk about Maven 4 in another video. But there's a lot of cool stuff right here to cover. But let us go to JSpecify right here. So JSpecify is supported, and what it does is that it actually enables us to add annotations in our code, so we can tell other developers. We can also tell. It's also used for tooling. That is the main usage. That is for tooling. So if you want to, for instance, SonarQube can help us find bugs before we experience null pointer exceptions in production. It is I think all Java developers have been talking about null pointer exceptions and experienced null pointer exceptions since Java was born, and we are still talking about it nowadays. And I guess that's just how it is. We have some cool ways to solve it, like with optionals, for instance, which is a part of the language. That is how I prefer to solve it. But there's also something called JSpecify right here. And the way to get started with JSpecify is to add it as a dependency. IntelliJ actually also have its own built-in nullable class annotation, but that is also another story. So right here, if you want to get started with JSpecify, then you just add this dependency right here. Of course, if you're using Gradle, you would just use the Gradle syntax instead. So you add it to your dependencies, you press the little Maven refresh button, and then you are good to go. I have created a magic service. I'm not Magic Mike, but I have created a magic service right here. This magic service, I have already, you can see I've cheated a bit because I've already added some non-null and nullable annotations right here, and that is exactly that. Right now there are 4 annotations that you need to know about, and 2 of them is just to mark it on the class level, so you don't have to mention that all of your parameters all of your parameters or return types are nullable or non-nullable. But you can, but that is exactly what you can do. So if you have a service that returns something, then you can say that that you're returning something that is never null, so it's non-null. So and then if for some reason it is possible to set if you're returning something null, then the IDE IntelliJ will then react to it, and also SonarQube will also say this is a bug right here, and it is marked as non-null. Then we have nullable. That means that then you tell the other developers on your project, and also yourself when you go to the code later on in the future, then you can. Then it's also for you, of course. Then you can say that this parameter right here is nullable, and of course, then you are handling it. But now that you know that it's nullable, then of course then you will handle it inside your method, and then you will make sure that you don't end up with any null pointer exceptions. And this is actually a cool tool that we have right here in the Spring Utils. There's something named null string to empty. That is one way to actually handle your strings. So that means that you're not dealing with something that could be null. You're dealing with something that is either blank or either has a real value. That's what I'm doing right here. So, and then I'm returning something. Hello, and then the name. So nullable and non-nullable. But let us now, just for fun, we will change this to non-null right here, and you can see we can actually get it from a lot of different places. We can also get it from Lombok. That is another story, another video. For now, we will play with JSpecify. And then I have a test right here, my magic service tests, and we inject the service right here. And then we call the method right here, and we say get message. And I'm using this cool var syntax right here. That means that the variable will be inferred from the right side when you do that. I'm an old-fashioned Java developer, so I'm actually used to writing the type on the left side also, and most of the times I do that. But I'm trying now to get a good habit of just writing var on the left side. So when I'm setting of course when I'm setting my variable on the right side, so then the variable is inferred. It's it's just shorter to write, and it's slightly faster. But it still depends on which mood I'm in. Sometimes I still write the type on the left side actually, and it's also I think it's more readable when you can see the type on the left side also. But that is another story. Okay, so I'll just delete all of this stuff right here. So all the assertions, I would actually like to keep the assertion right here. So we have an assertion right here. I'm using assert J because the syntax looks cool. Assert J right here. And I assert that the message is equal to hello Mike, like this, and then we run the test. Then we will see what happens, if it's green or not. But what right now we actually have a non-null annotation on the parameter for get message. That means if I try to add null right here, then I get a warning in IntelliJ, passing null argument to parameter annotated with not null. That is not good, it says. So thank you very much IntelliJ, and thank you very much JSpecify. You just saved me for a null, for an exception. Actually, that's not true, because right now I had this line here also. But let's say that I did not have this line right here, then I would have been saved from. It could be saved from a null point exception, especially if I used a string without knowing that it was null. I'm going to leave this right here. That's quite cool actually, because I want to talk a bit more about null. So that is actually what it's used for. In short, JSpecify. Of course, the story never ends there, especially with null and null point exceptions. It will continue forever, right? So. And what I mean by that is, first of all, if you have a lot of member variables, so you have a private string, first name, something like here, so first name, like this, and then you have a last name, private string. Now it's a record actually. I made a record. I converted it into a record. I was actually playing around with the new AI assistant from IntelliJ also, and then I said, convert current record to a class. I just did that the other way around, and then I converted it into a record. But now I would actually like it to be a class. It's easier to do demos with classes. So let us just do that. Then we also enter AI assistant world. I'm using a trial right now because I think it's still a bit pricey. The price model is still a bit. Then I can just press copy right here. It's quite convenient also, but it's also still quite pricey. Then I just paste it right here, and now it's a class. And of course, if there was something more to it, then of course other stuff. Yeah, then we would have more changes. Actually, in this situation, was just class instead of record, so that was actually easy to change right here. But now I can say private string, first name, last name. Okay, just to finish the AI assistant thing. If you want to use the AI assistant, of course, feel free to do that. There's a 30-day trial, and you can try it out. But then, if you are too cheap to buy the license, just like I am, then you can just use Docker model runner, for instance, or you can use one of the online prompts. If you're using the online prompts, then you need to make sure that you're compliant with the company that you work for. So, because there's some companies you can actually not paste the company code to online or browser-based sites. So if that's the situation, then you can enable beta features in Docker, in the Docker desktop, and then you can run it as a Docker model runner. I've made another video on how to do that, so just follow that instead, and then The only thing that's a little bit annoying is that you have to give this context. You saw here before I could just say the current file and then the current class. I can just write stuff like that because AI Assistant already knows which project that we're in and also which file, and it knows the whole context, so that it's a bit easier. It's a bit easier to make more convenient to use. If you use Docker Model Runner, for instance, and you're running one of the models, then you have to first copy this file right here. Then you have to write given this file, and you have to say that it's code also, because else you can get some weird replies. But you can actually save these conditions and these contexts. You can save those, and you can also just put it in a notepad, and then you can you can paste it into Docker Model Run, and then you'll say, as a Java developer, I would like to convert this class into a record, for instance, and then you'll paste it, and you'll get the exact same result. That actually depends on which model you choose, but you should get kind of the same result here. Okay, that was I got sidetracked right there, but that's okay. So here now we have a first name and we have a last name right here. So first of all, we have it's never used. Yeah, we know that. So first, that means that we do not need to say that. If we want to say that this is non-null, of course we can annotate each of these member variables right here, but it's a little bit annoying. So we could actually say, so we can actually annotate on class level. So we can say add non-null marked or marked non-null. Let me say null non-marked null marked. Let me just see here. Null marked. What else? Null unmarked. Yes. So that's the other one. So we have null marked and we have null unmarked. And as you could hear there, I don't always remember exactly those ones right here. So let's say that we want to mark them all as non-null. Then I can now delete this one, and I can let us just null marked. Null marked. See, now I don't have to say that it's non-null because it's per default non-null. And also the other way around, null unmarked. And that is actually to cancel that's if you want to cancel the null marked afterwards. So you have those two possibilities, and you can set those at the class level, so then you don't have to set each member variable and each return type to non-null. If you want to do clean code where you actually don't return anything that can be null, you should always try not to return something that is null. If there is something that could be null, then you should use an optional, of course, an optional like this. So that is how I prefer to deal with it instead. So then you just return an optional string instead. It's much cleaner and it's much nicer. Also, the code afterwards, when you use that optional, then you have these cool or else statements that can be used, and you can test whether it's empty or whether it's present, if there's a value or not. So it's quite easy to use optional. I made another video on optionals, of course. I don't have to say that all the time. I made videos on most of the weird stuff. So yeah. So, but that is JSpecify. If you want to tell if you want to tell all of the tooling, all of the tools and the ID that this is null, then you can actually use it right like this. And if you don't want to use an optional, of course. If you use an optional, then you per default tell the other developers then that this is something that could be null. It is optional. If you're not using optional in your daily work, then I would definitely advise you to do so, because we also get something called scoped variables in Java 25, which kind of have the same syntax. So if you use optional, it's just a bit easier also to adopt the new scoped variables. Okay, so let us go back to the test right here. So yeah, so now we have a get message right here, and this is a good way to avoid null values. Use a string util null from string to empty. That's one way. If you're dealing with maps, so my map equal to map of. So if you have some weird map right here, and then you want to use the map afterwards, and you want to do this in a null safe way, then you say my map, and then instead of just running get, then you would say get or default, because you can see here now we're looking up the name. Actually, name that would actually be Mike. So let us feed it with some names first. Or let's just feed it with some yeah, age 20. That sounds good. T. Okay, so here now we have a name Mike and age 20, and then we can say get or default right here, and then we can return whatever value that we have right here. Get or default. So, and what is the problem here now? So now we'll just remove name. And then this would just be key instead. So instead of this being a yes. So that means that when we get this, we need to call to string because it's actually an object that which is returned. So then we call to string. Okay. So now we have my magic service right here, and then we are now it's a map that we're looking up in. So of course, let us say that we look up some key right here where we don't have the key. So I'll look up something like height, and we did not provide any height right there. And then we will just expect to get unknown back because that is actually the case. So that's the way if you have some maps and you're afraid of and you don't have filled out and you don't have all of the values filled out and you don't have infinite amount of keys and some of the keys might be missing, then you use get or default. It's just then you will avoid any null values. Expected unknown but actual Mike. Boom boom boom. Yes, that's because I looked up name right here, so let us look up key instead. Yes, so now we're looking up the key, and now we'll just get green test. Yes, that's cool, and then we just duplicate this code right here, and then we will just set this to message 2. But Mike, why don't you just reuse the first variable? Because it's very ugly to do that. You should try not to. You should not try not to reuse variables, or you should not reuse variables. If you're using any language that supports immutable variables, then of course you should use immutable variables. It just makes the code much cleaner, and you would avoid some weird errors where you think your variable is something and then suddenly something else. Another thing is you should keep your methods short. And yes, that's actually it. If your methods are too long, then you can refactor your method just by marking some code like this, and then you can press Control Alt M, and now I extracted it into a new. So now I actually extracted this part right here. And as you can see right here, there was just Control Alt M. If you have something that should have been a constant, then you can just press Control Alt C for constant, and then you can create a constant instead. Let's say that you want this to be a constant height, and you just press Control Alt C, and now it's a constant which is used up here. Okay, but we have a green test now. We have been playing around with JSpecify, and we have specify in here, and we have seen that we can place these annotations non-null. We have seen we can place them on parameter level, on return type level, on member variable, and also on variable level. I don't know if it makes sense to. Oh, JSpecify. Yeah. Make sure that you get the right one. Now I got the wrong one. Where do we have it? Lombok. The Lombok one is also interesting, but we will talk about that another time. So, non-null Lombok, just for fun, right here. So then it actually creates a non-null statement for us. That means, again, as soon as we do something with Lombok, then it actually changes the code. When you're compiling it to a class file, then it actually changes it to, okay, we cannot do it in this variable right here, but it also does not make sense with non-null here. Okay, I got derailed again as usual. Let me just check right here. I think actually I'm pretty happy with this demo right now. We also saw AI assistant. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. We will look at the non-null Lombok. I made another video about that. I already made a video about Lombok, where non-null is one of the topics actually. So just watch that if you want to get in depth with Lombok non-null version. That's another way to handle values that cannot be null. There are some null checks inside the compile code, so that means that will actually be okay. Let us actually try. Yeah, I can actually show it here. We got a little bit time left. But Mike, what do you mean with that? Don't you have enough disk space to record more, or what? Why do you say that? No, it was just something I said. I don't know why. So let us go back to the test. So okay, so now we're going to give it a null, and we have just marked it with Lombok non-null this time. Lombok non-null. What will happen now? So let us see what will happen now. We will run our tests. What will we see? Oh, now we got an error. Now we got a null pointer exception. Key is marked non-null, but is null. So that actually, this will give us a this means that we will actually have the check as soon as we enter the method, and we want to fail fast as usual. So that means that we are already failing before we actually end up before we start using the code, because there's a check. If null, then throw null pointer exception already in the beginning. So it makes debugging much easier, because the error is quite easy to read. Its key is marked as non-null, but it's actually null. And we can go to the line. That's line 12 right here. So that is cool also from Lombok. Yeah. So the way that I handle null values of things that can be null, variables that can be null, return types that can be null, is with optionals, and yeah, you saw already that. I will not. That is actually it. That is what I wanted to show you. Let me just check if there were other new stuff which was cool in IntelliJ. Java 25, yeah, we talked about that. Just the debugger, something with modulate. Bum bum bum. Yes. Bum bum bum. Doodle doodle doodle. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for all of your comments, and have a great evening. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.